all 23 said yes. So it was 100% of our listeners who voted on the poll this morning who said that yes, either they personally or their family members or their friends have been the victim of criminality in Trinidad and Tobago. We didn't put a timeline to it. We didn't say within the last 5 years or anything. We just
didn't put a timeline. But when was just telling me her timeline.
And it's one of the few polls where it's actually 100%.
Everybody said that they was subject to crime or their family.
They either know somebody or their family members have been.
Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all. It's so pervasive.
Look, Shaka is saying that that home invasion yesterday was at Calcutta Road. She said bandits with ski masks invaded our home, and of course they shot at her brother in the head. Sadly, he passed away. Shaka,
But they didn't shot at him, then they shot him in his head.
Shot him.
Sad. No condolences to her.
Condolences to you, Shaka, and your family. That condolences.
I certainly have been a victim of crime, and I know several people who have been victims of crime in the last month alone.
Let me just read Wendy Ann's own here. She says actually 4 times. Car stolen in 1990 in St. Anne's. Intruder in the house around 1990, 2000 while we were asleep. Break-in while not at home in Barrattari in the 1980s. Handbag stolen in store on Charlotte Street sometime between 1999 and 2005. Crime not happening now. We're still waiting on police to come when intruder invaded our home while we were asleep.
That must be most unsettling when you wake up and know somebody's in your house.
Yeah, boy.
That must be so unsettling. Such an invasion. That must be so eerie. To know that you were asleep and someone is walking around in your home.
Well, Ingrid on Facebook, one of our regulars, said that since 1979, when she left Trinidad for America, she has always promoted Trinidad and Tobago. How do I bring my American colleagues and close friends down to Trinidad and protect them from the crime on a beautiful little island in the Caribbean that I've advocated for so much for 43 years? I love my country. But how does she bring people down now?
How do you tell them to come to this
prevent them, you know? But I mean, people still, despite the criminality, I mean, it can't, the flip side of that is that it can't cower us. It can't change our lives completely, that we can't go out or we can't, live our lives and get our joy in whatever we do. So you people still go out, of course, and people still come in because people always have visitors coming into the country, and there are always visitors coming into the country. So it's a matter of just being vigilant, I guess, in terms of where you go, how you and be aware of your surroundings at all times. Mm-hmm. But it should not be like that. Mm-hmm. Not in such a small space. Any government that can solve crime will probably be there for years.
Years to come. They'll be very easily reelected.
Yeah. If they can get a handle on crime, and they'd be there for years. Because it's such an issue that is so number one an issue for all Trinidadians and Tobagonians, if not all, certainly the vast majority. That if you were able to solve it, you'd be in power for years.
But we always talk about the fact that when we travel and we go to huge cities, you feel safer in a huge city.
Yep.
Which is, because you feel that, well, even if you are the victim of crime, God forbid, that they're going to catch the person. That is not the feeling here.
No.
It just goes into this black hole of nothingness. What you gonna do? It's really, really oppressive. Really, really oppressive and quite unfortunate.
Yeah. But it's one of our few polls where there's 100% of the people saying yes, they know somebody or they have been personally affected. They have been personally affected by crime.
And I'm not surprised. We've all been touched in some way, form, or fashion.
Yeah.
Someone we know or a family member. I mean, someone we know directly. Yeah? Not even someone you know in the news or via Facebook. Someone that's actually in your life.
Yep.
You know, and that is, and I keep going back to that editorial you read earlier on in my mind, and this Akidi Charles situation, and how easy it was for them to kill him.
Yep.
I mean, and there are several conversations that will come up. He ended up on a murder charge. He may have been known to the criminal element. He may have known the criminal element, you know. He was in jail for 9 years. You don't know who he met in jail. I mean, there are several different conversations that's going to come up. But to me, the shocking reality that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days after he was out, 3 days. If he were in jail, maybe he would have lived, because he was living in jail for 9 years. So is it safer inside?
And just a couple of days after the decision of the Privy Council, in which he was the primary.
He was extremely
respondent.
high profile.
Yeah, he was the primary responder because the state appealed the decision.
So imagine how the law lords in the Privy Council, reading about that this morning, think about us as a country. You understand?
How did it go so wrong?
And
Because I mean, a lot of the a lot of the Trinidadians who live abroad who listen to this program, a lot of the Trinidadians who live here are very proud of Trinidad and Tobago. Like you are proud of Trinidad and Tobago, and how you are, because we love our country and we love the diversity of our country. We love the diversity of the celebrations that take place. Emancipation Day being one yesterday. And it's just like this blot on the landscape with regard to criminality that the state seems incapable of solving.
At any sustained level, anyway. It's really. I mean, whew, let's talk about Nicholas Paul now.
Yes. I mean, of course, congratulations to Nicholas Paul, who won 3 medals at the Commonwealth Games. In fact, being the first Trinidadian and Tobagonian to actually win, multiple medals.
Gold,
in
silver,
that
and
way.
bronze.
Yeah, so he won gold, silver, and bronze. And in 3 different events at the Commonwealth Games. So that was some good news in terms of, bringing a smile to people's faces.
Yeah. And that's why, I mean, in spite of all this talk of crime, there's still so many great things about this country. Yeah.
I see so many, because you're on social media and you skim through and there's so many, I'm not talking about the bacchanal. They always have some bacchanal and some stupidness. I bypass those. In fact, they don't even come up in my feed anymore. Those kind of TikToks or videos with people fighting or quarreling or cussing. They're so unproductive and silly and stupid. I don't even know why people tape and broadcast those things. They're so irrelevant to your life. So I bypass those things. So they don't even come up in my feed. Those things don't come up in my feed. But what will come up in my feed are things like people hiking and showing you waterfalls or showing you different parts of Trinidad and Tobago that you have not been. Mm-hmm. And it's always some of these spaces they go to on some like waterfalls, which to me are hidden because you have to hike to get to them.
Beautiful.
They're so beautiful.
Yeah.
And so the beauty of Trinidad and Tobago is so spectacular. Of course, they also have some of the show you snakes, which not so spectacular to me. But the Trinidad and Tobago landscape is so rich. And I always wonder about all of those seaside villages like Blanchishes, and you have like Toko, and and all of those, because Toko is so absolutely beautiful. It's so rugged and beautiful.
Stunning, beautiful place.
And I always wonder why there was never a plan for those villages to have its own brand. Mm-hmm. That for Blanchishes, in other words, you create a brand for Blanchishes.
That makes so much sense here.
The structures that are being built you make it in a particular way, whatever architects come into it, so that when you go to Blanchard's, you know this is a seaside village that looks a particular way, and because it improves your internal tourism and tourists coming from other countries, which so many European seaside towns have mastered. They have mastered that their villages look a particular way or their towns look a particular way because, of course, they're marketing themselves. And we have so many beautiful seaside towns that we just leave it up to, I don't know what. The roads are bad. There are no proper railings. When it skirts the seaside, there are no established lookout routes where you can, park to the side and look out at, for example, the ocean. There's so much you can do. And we just seem, I don't know, we seem so ad hoc and disorganized. It's almost like Trinidad and Tobago is such a chaotic space, even in terms of development and having ideas of how our various towns and villages look. And I don't know who can change that, because governments have never seemed, and the national government and local government officials have never seemed preoccupied with branding towns and cities in a particular way. And they've never seemed preoccupied with the aesthetics and where people live and how they live. How can you walk your dog? Yeah. Can you walk your dog without carrying a big stick, because you know that there's some stray dogs that might come after your dog? I see people walking the dogs and they always have to walk with a stick.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously? You walk down any city or town, you hardly see garbage bins. Or you see them infrequently. And I'm like, I don't know, why is that not important to the people we elect? That the quality of life of your citizens is important, and it also contributes to crime, because I'm a firm believer that the more disciplined your physical environment, the more discipline it invokes psychologically on you.
Yeah, environment impacts your mindset. If your environment falling apart, the country generally
exactly. So if your spaces continue to fall apart, it contributes to a kind of criminal level of thinking that this space is disorganized.
It's a disorganized, unprogressive place. It doesn't make you feel like, because people who live here, who would do nonsense here, going to organized spaces elsewhere and conform.
Yep.
Yes.
Because the environment informs how you behave.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But when you walk through Port of Spain, the potholes, the derelict place, the vagrants in the street, you just get a sense that everything's falling apart.
Yeah. Look at that picture.
And more than that, no one's attending to it. I don't know.
Check that picture I just sent you guys to the group. That was yesterday.
And there's a whole science, if you may call it design science, let me call it that, of crime prevention through environmental design, called SEPTED, I think. And we had a guy talk about it, and I've talked about it over the years, in that when you are building and designing spaces and urban spaces, there is a way to design it to limit crime. And I don't even know if that's even a consideration in the designing of spaces that takes place in Trinidad and Tobago in terms of housing, communities, and stuff like that. I don't even know if that's an issue. Look at Oropoon. I remember when Oropoon was first built, and I went in there, and it looked like having so much opportunity, and there's still some parts of that that seem ordered and structured properly, but there are other parts. You're seeing graffiti, you're seeing unkempt areas, the roads are looking bad, because I went in there recently and I'm like, what?
Yeah, what went wrong?
What?
Yeah.
What the
What
hell?
went wrong? Again, no maintenance plan. It's just they build them and they move on. No maintenance plan. Because if you don't maintain physical structures, they deteriorate. Think of your own house.
Yes.
You have to have a maintenance plan in place. You have to, with government buildings, with state projects, with environments, you have to have a maintenance plan in place. And
And you remember
maintenance plans also provide employment to people.
And I remember there were one or two businesses that were starting to pop up in Oropoon where you had unsavory characters, and some of the neighbors and homeowners were complaining. And I don't even know whatever happened out of that. I think they tried to shut down, but I think the person's still there. And it's that chaos that creeps in.
Yeah.
And is allowed to creep in.
And then they build this a garage on the pavement, and then they put this up here.
Exactly.
Like a friend of mine was arguing that her family member bought an HCC apartment, and they're so vexed because they're not allowing them to put up nothing and they paint the wall the way they want. I said, but if everyone is allowed to put up what they want and paint how they want, it would turn into a mosaic of madness.
Exactly.
I said, why is that so hard to understand? But it's their house. I said, yes, but if everyone in the apartment block is allowed to paint it what color they want and put up a wall where they want and erect what they want, what would that look like in 2 years?
Exactly.
And she just oblivious, didn't understand that.
And
I
in
think
many,
should be allowed to do what they want. It's their house.
But that can't happen. But even in high-end gated communities,
you can't touch it.
You can't.
You have to have permission.
You have to get permission to change the color of this
So,
and change the color of that.
Everyone thinks of
And
themselves.
something you can't build. And that's not only a Trinidad and Tobago thing. That's a thing abroad too. That depending on the area you live in.
But
you
no,
can't
but
do
Richard,
certain
if not depending on, you
Yeah.
have to get permission from the city to do anything to your property in the US.
because it
Yeah, look,
affects
for example-
property values.
Yeah.
It affects. You don't want chaos creeping in. That's
Yeah.
how chaos creeps in.
Yeah, look, a friend of mine in Florida just wanted to put up a satellite dish for direct TV, and he had to get permission first before he could have put that up. He wanted to put out an outdoor, like a tiki shed in his backyard. He had to get permission first.
They're very regulated.
Backyard, very.
They're very regulated. But Trinidad, it's like, do what you want.
Yeah. Do it. Anything.
Yeah, do what you want. And this is the consequence of do what you want, because that criminality is a direct kind of result out of it. And how do we fix it? I don't know, but we have to fix it. I have no ifs or buts. We have to fix it.
No. Shall we open the phone lines?
Yeah, we could open up the lines at this point. I'm seeing he's on his phone. I'm not so sure if he's getting some
Yeah.
breaking news.
222 talk 612 talk.
Oh, so we can open the lines. Okay, I thought you were calling somebody. So 222 talk 222-8255 612-8255. North Americans 866-525-1099. We're taking some of your calls at this point, so you can be interactive with us as we discuss the issues facing Trinidad and Tobago today. Of course, the main issue we're discussing is criminality, and where we were talking about regulations and issues of
And you can call and
how
congratulate
places
Nicola.
deteriorate.
Call and congratulate Nicholas Paul too.
Yeah.
Add some
good morning,
news
caller.
for free.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
And, I have a saying, I believe, this is Jerry on the side. Small things lead to big things. And the question you all asked this morning, has your family been affected by crime? My son was nearly killed about 2 weeks ago when he was using my car and they tried to take it. And up to this day, what's disappointing to me? The person who asked my son to drop the boys where they're going hasn't been spoken to by the police. They keep taking it as just an accident because, yes, we're fighting with the fella in the car, you run off the road, you run down another car and you hit a lamp pole.
Now, let me give you an interesting factor related to that. We interviewed, and it confused me. One of the three young men, the 17-year-old who was killed by police 2 weeks ago, right? One would imagine, right? Because the police alleged that the car, which contained 6 of them, 3 of them were killed, shot at the police.
Yeah.
That's what the police alleged. So, Richard,
Yeah.
that they would have interviewed the family members of those killed. When we went last week, Wednesday, I think it was, the family had not been interviewed yet. The mother nor the father. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So you ask yourself, what type of follow-up is taking place?
Please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you think they'd have questioned somebody, because it could have been a random act, it could be wild, it could be any number of things. It don't have to always be a serious crime. But nobody has interviewed anyone, and they treated them to me. So these young fellas, let's say they get away with this, and they're gonna graduate and graduate and graduate. And I believe you see green spaces. I believe all schools supposed to have an area where children can go and sit down in the open air during the recess and lunch break and under trees and relax and don't have to always be in the concrete part of the school. Give them that mental change. It would help the whole demeanor, the whole disposition.
Yeah.
You know? But I mean, allowing small things to keep going. And when your house is broken too, you know the person who just tell the police and they will tell you, well, information is not evidence. But they're not even looking for the information to get the evidence.
Yeah. All right.
So we can treat it. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Caller. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning. No, I no mean to underscore the importance of the situation that we face in pertaining to crime, right? But in your discussion this morning, I got the impression that most of the police aren't detecting or solving some of the murders, because that's the crucial one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that discussion, you get the impression that 100% or at least significant amount of the crime will be solved. Now, there are reports, if you look at internationally, use the United States, for example, FBI reports that over 50% of murders go unsolved. Hence the reason why you have cold cases that they pertain, right? So, in the discussion this morning, I never heard anything about the detection rate, our detection rate, whether it has increased or decreased. Because there are certain social media sites in which you could go on to, and even the police service site, where actually the posts, a lot of the infraction of crime, where the posts where they held the person and had the person's faces printed. So the other issue is pertaining to the murder of the Akil Charles. And I'm asking myself, how is this one significant pertaining and compared to others that were released from prison or released on bail that were killed? And most recently you had one of the fellows who they allege was the head of one of the gangs, where he was murdered in Enterprise. Right? But how has this significant in terms of the amount of days? Because when it is that you are considered as being high profile and accused of murder or any serious crime, who is responsible in order of keeping you protected? Do you have a personal responsibility? All right, because what I read in the papers, he was lying outside his premises around 10 o'clock in the night also. And if it is that you are suspected to be a victim in that instance, then it doesn't matter what day. It could have been a day after, once it is the opportunity presents itself, because there are various motivations of people, especially persons who are hurting, are not seen in this case, right? Because if you're accused of murder, you look at the aspect of other persons. The victims themselves feel that the system has failed them, right? So I think that should be part, and sometimes it appears to me as if the media either put these persons on a pedestal, and the victim.
You're saying that, but you're not acknowledging that. Well, I said this morning, I'm not ascribing innocence or guilt to Akili Charles. So we said that. We said we don't know if he was known to gangs or a part of gangs or gangs knew him. We said all that.
Well, I apologize. Probably I missed that part.
But you're curiously omitting that commentary to add balance to our conversation this morning. We did say that on not one occasion, on several occasions in the conversation about Akili Charles this morning. Because Akili Charles wasn't a murder charge. We said so. So we didn't seek to put Akili Charles on any pedestal or disaggregate him from any other murder.
And I've seen, I'm speaking specifically about I should have said, the Express editorial.
But I still agree that although no one should, Akidi Charles wasn't a murder charge. Whether or not he wasn't a murder charge, his murder is significant as every other murder. I do understand the diminishing of his life because he was a murder charge.
Yeah. But not only that.
Seeming to, let me not say diminishing, seeming to diminishing the gravity of his murder because he was in a murder charge. I do understand that.
But what raises Akini Charles' murder to be more high profile than others is the fact that he is the face of the challenging of the constitutionality of the bail.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's why it's significant.
And the lack of bail for murder and it being ruled unconstitutional at the Privy Council mere days before he's murdered. All of that feeds into why he would rise to a certain level of prominence.
Exactly. It has changed. That he wasn't.
It has changed. It has changed jurisprudence in terms of your access to bail. That decision that not only affects Trinidad and Tobago, it also affects Jamaica and other jurisdictions where the Privy Council decisions hold sway. Mm-hmm. It affects those jurisdictions where they may not, or they may have similar bail provisions. I know Jamaica is one for sure. Well, I think Jamaica does have some bail for murder, but they were planning to bring some legislation, and the decision kind of stopped them in their tracks. So Akini Charles was the face of that. Yeah. So that's why he's the subject of an editorial today.
Not that he wasn't as vulnerable as anybody else.
Yeah, let's grab this call, gentlemen. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning.
You all struck a little with me this morning with the conversation that you all spoke about aesthetics. I went to Cedros a couple months ago during the lockdown, and people were just driving all over the country, and I saw South Beach, the potential for Cedros to have a beautiful South Beach. The waters in Cedros are smooth and calm to accommodate all kind of water sports.
White sand.
And yes, and the layout of Cedros is similar to South Beach. You have the ocean, you have the sand, you have the road, and you have the buildings on the other side.
Like you're seeing a resort.
I've seen a resort. I've seen a fantastic party environment. Yeah. I've seen water sports. I've seen
economic development.
I am just wondering who is the person in charge of this area that cannot see this. This Cedros could be a beautiful village if we just take some investment, some planning, some time, some foresight. Oh my God, Cedros could be like South Beach. And there's a lot of other places in Trinidad and Tobago that has that potential, but for some reason, all these ministers that travel can't see things and bring it back and implement it in Trinidad and Tobago. Give the villagers the capital and the plan and bring them on board and do something in Trinidad and Tobago positive and uplift these new communities.
It's just like I thought the Toko port was a great idea.
Thank you, caller.
I mean, the Toko port would have opened up the economy of that area.
It opened up so many things.
Yeah.
Isn't it still being built?
I don't know.
We don't know.
I don't know.
Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Sonny.
Morning.
Would you all agree with me that when the former commissioner was in charge, that the crime situation was heading in a better direction?
It seemed so.
Yeah.
The perception was that.
And can you all refresh my memory? What was his rating?
In terms of what?
In terms of performance.
Well, depending on what poll you take.
Most polls, I will say this, most of the population, I would say over 70% of the population was in favor of what he was doing.
Yes, I think you're correct,
Mm-hmm.
Richard. And the only member of our society who lost confidence in him, who was that?
No, the outspoken member was the Prime Minister.
Right, and his position on the National Security Council is what?
The chairman, I think.
The head.
Okay, so that tells us that crime ain't going to get better, and the detection ain't going to get better in the near future, because one citizen lose confidence in this man, and we had at least 70% of our population was satisfied with the way he was going. I think we are in a bad place, and we are going to be there for a long time.
Well, I hope
Thank you.
sincerely that you are wrong. Of course, the Prime Minister may say, if I may take his argument, he may say that he had information as to why he lost confidence, and that
There's
information,
serious concerns therein.
yeah, and that information may rise to a serious enough level,
Even if the person is being efficient or effective.
So, but we don't know.
Good morning.
Or I should say, we don't know yet.
Morning after
Morning,
one
Mr.
weekend. Paul Richard.
Patrick.
Ragoobarsingh, morning.
Morning.
Paul Richard made a statement a while back, and that is such a profound statement. Better you stay in jail than you come out here.
No, better he had stayed in jail.
Because if you apply for bail on a murder charge or some kind of charge, and you come out here, you know there are people waiting there.
Mm-hmm.
People waiting for when you come
That's
out
a high probability.
Because somehow or the other, the people feel they get no justice. Sir. You kill my child or you kill somebody and you get bail and you come out here.
Allegedly.
Street justice. And Trinidad have a lot of street justice, Papa. You understand? So that's the thing when people are applying for bail. If they have somewhere to go from this country when they get a bailless brother. And the same thing with the witness. With the witness, you silence the witness, Mr. Ragoobarsingh. You get rid of the witness. You came at Clint Huggins. Clint Huggins was on bail and he went in a safe house. He found the safe house that was safe. And when he come out here, he was a dead man. So that's the country we living in.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Patrick. Good morning, caller.
Well, witness protection is not unique to Trinidad and Tobago. It's a feature of policing across the planet.
Or criminal justice systems. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Richard, they talked about the environmental design, and I like that. But environmental design also leads us to social and cooperative art and design methodologies where you build with people their communal spaces, hopefully, bridging a kind of connected community and how people see themselves and all those things. And it has become popular, and it is in certain degree programs. Sadly, in Trinidad, when I talked about professional at UB, the academic colleagues, they don't have an aesthetic component within the social work programs and other aspects of how they see aesthetics in like urban planning and everything. Planners have this disconnect between aesthetics and this type of methodology to improve spaces and people and how people can work, to help develop their spaces. And the interesting thing about that port talk in Toko is that I've never really seen a proper port in Trinidad that is environmentally friendly. And I really I don't have much confidence that port in Toko, I think it will mash up the environment if you don't hold it to very high standards. And that high standard is not there. I know Gariota, I know what point, Lisa. Port of Spain totally gone through. Shogunas because they have maybe the small boat, but you can't hold your head out for Shagaramas, that area there. So I'm not seeing much hope for Toko in the sense of opening up. I said that was just the pollution, the coral reef, and the fishing, and then the turtles, and all those kind of things. Nah, so independent senator, I don't know, opening up and destroying at the same time. Okay,
I am not sure that you have to destroy if you take certain precautions.
right. That was my first thing. The precautions. If you see any port, you can show me in Trinidad that have those precautions. The EMA. Right now, the Caroni Swamp is on stress because of the Point Lisas and all the oil and things that coming from those things. So that's my thing. The precautions are not in place to have the confidence that a port in Toko that has high sensitive environment needs will be held. If you could show me and give me the confidence, I will say, yeah, I could. All right, let's be. But hey, other than that, all right, man.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Good morning.
Morning, gentlemen. Again, good morning.
Morning, big guy.
Morning.
How you doing? I'm just calling. I heard Mr. Richard say something this morning. What I would say is this: that I read the 3 newspapers every morning. I listen to you all day, except up until 12. And I could tell people in Trinidad about things happening in Trinidad they didn't know about. I was really upset for the past few years about crime. And Mr. Richard said something this morning. He said, maybe you just have to accept it as it is. And that's where I'm going right now, because I can tell you about all the crime and who get killed. A lot I can tell you about it. And the other day when the Prime Minister came with this statement that he's going to appoint a committee to identify a plan to teach people about crime in school or wherever it is, my heart dropped. My heart just dropped. And I realized what Mr. Richard's saying. That's how I started to feel. I say that maybe it's not going anywhere, and Trinidad is just going to keep going like that forever. Because when people ask about Trinidad, I can tell them about the beach and everything. And if they ask me, what about crime? I have no answer for them. Okay, gentlemen. So I don't know, but I just pray for Trinidad that something happens and that some leader with the temperament of Mr. Marvin Gonzalez could come into power and change everything. All right, gentlemen.
So you fired Dr. Rowley and appoint Marvin Gonzalez. That's what you just did it?
In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
Okay.
In a heartbeat, sir.
Marvin better watch it. Yes.
All right. Thanks, pal.
All right.
All right, big
All
guy.
right, sir.
All the best to you.
All right.
Okay.
Same
good.
to you. Same to you.
Thanks, man. All right. We have 5 more minutes before we head to news brief.
Big guy trying to put Marvin in place.
Champlain Auto Services. What's that, Paul?
Big guy trying to put Marvin in place.
So.
I mean, I take no joy in saying that that maybe we have to accept it, and I know in principle we have to actually have hope and optimism that things will get better. But given the history we've seen and the trajectory we've seen, and the caller called earlier and talked about detection rates and what is the situation in other jurisdictions and the FBI report, that don't mean I can hope for better for my country. We compare to the US is 200 and how much 35 million people.
The US is nearly 300 million.
300 million, but we are 1.4 million. Land space, not even. Must see, we how many times the size of Manhattan?
That I can't tell you.
You understand? The land space is so small. Yes, the issue is to manage the coastal areas and have border security better, but I don't know if you could point me in the direction in crime and where we're improving. I'd be very happy.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Now, Dr. Rowley has been duly elected Prime Minister, and I'm going to give him his 5 years. I will not engage in any conspiracies. I agree he's not doing a great job, but the question is, did Dr. Rowley create the mess that we are in, or did the mess create Dr. Rowley? And the question of, I mean, we could extend that. I read about the communities and the way, the dilapidated way.
What mess are you talking about?
Trinidad and Tobago. We
As a whole?
Yeah, I think so.
So you're asking a question if Dr. Rowley created the mess that is Trinidad and Tobago today?
Yeah,
Really?
you see, and I would say that he didn't. I would say that Dr. Rowley is a creator of this mess, and he has learned how to throw his punches and how to operate in this arena, and therefore he has become a very successful politician. He's extremely effective as a politician whose first job is to get elected, and he's great at that. His party has done great under him. And but the question, I mean, people are blaming, you know, we want to blame a short-term leader for long-term issues. And I think that our society overall, now there's all kinds of components and so on, but you're speaking about the houses before and how people want to go and do their own thing, and then how would it look? So you have to ask yourself, if you just take people and put them in the most beautiful environment, wouldn't they mess it up after a while? Because that is what they want to do in that particular housing estate that you spoke of. And it is we, the Trinidad and Tobago people, who have messed up Trinidad and Tobago, right? So I'm done with my defense of Dr. Rowley because he's done enough foolishness. But I'm saying that the question of, do the people create the environment, or does the environment create the people? If you take me and put me in the most messy environment, I will just be the same messy person that I am here. And if you put me in some other kind of environment at the other end, I'll still be me. You know, and I will tend to clean up the messiest place and bring it to what I am. And I will tend to mess up the cleanest place, using a broad word there, you know, and bring it to what I am. I think to a large extent we are what we are, and we have created this environment, and taking people out of one environment and putting them in another, you would have to be a policeman on their back every day in order to keep it the way you want. And therefore, this idea that you can transpose people from one place to another in large enough numbers, I mean, you can take a couple people and they just fall in line, because the little bit of mess that they make gets eaten away. But if you take a large enough bunch of people from any place and put them in a new place, they're going to recreate their home environment. So I don't think that we want to blame government policies and all kinds of things that we are failing to import, all kinds of behaviors. I think we are just going to be us. You know, we piss on people's fences and all of that, and we spit in the road, and, you know, and we pick people's mangoes and feel it's just 2 mangoes, and boys will
So your suggestion is that we're just an unruly bunch?
Yeah, this is how we are, and this is what we have created, and we shouldn't feel that a rule or two and a little bit of enforcement here and there. So, you know, you should ease your minds. I think Richard said that essentially this is how it is going to be. And I want, whether he said that or not, or he meant it or not, this is how we are going to be. I've watched it carefully for some time. This is what we are. People have actually defended their right to piss on other people's fences. So, I mean, how far is that person away from me? That's happening in Woodbrook. I could get up there in less than an hour and a half. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Pinal. All right, let's take a quick break. We got to run into our news brief, so let's get into that right now. All courtesy, Sean Florida Services.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
TNG Cycling